Was Dr. Sebi murdered? Let's talk about it. It's Saturday morning, and there's a lot of information going around that Dr. Sebi has died. Now, I don't have all the facts yet, so I'm going to say that all this information is allegedly. But from what I understand, his death is certain. Now, from what I understand, he was in prison, and I find it very peculiar that people within the Black conscious community and people that's also a part of natural eating and natural medicine did not know that he was in prison. And word has it that there was a riot in the prison not too long ago. It's said that he wasn't hurt. And then the story goes that he wasn't feeling well and he died on his way to the hospital or in the hospital. So I'm entitling this part 1 because as more details come in, I will make a part 2. Now, first off, I want to say that my condolences go out to the family and to all his friends. Dr. Sebi did a lot of good works in the community by trying to help people eat better and get a better understanding of medicine. I personally had some problems with his teachings because I feel like his teachings, it should have been clear that his teachings were for advanced vegans and not for beginners, because I have been trying to help a lot of people for years and have been helping a lot of people for years change the way they eat. And one of the big obstacles that is in our way when we tell people to stop eating meat is they want to say, well, what do I eat? So I feel like the alkaline way of eating makes the list of what not to eat too long, and it runs away more people than it will bring into a better way of eating. I mean, it's hard enough for me to get people to stop eating pork, beef, chicken, goat, fish, lobster, crab, white sugar, white flour, table salt, artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors, etc., etc. And if you add carrots and cabbage and broccoli and brown rice and pasta, it would be virtually impossible to get beginners to fathom the idea that they can change and get off of eating meat. Because as far as I'm concerned, that's what we want to do. We want to get you off pork, off beef, off chicken, off fish, off other seafood, off all artificial sweeteners and flavors. And then we want to get you off of all of the other poisons that go along with it, including dairy products. But overall, the brother was trying to do his best, so I still have more respect for him than I have problems with him. Now, the reason I call this the murder of Dr. Sebi is because Dr. Sebi was a very old man. in his 80s or 90s. I'll get the facts and talk about it in part 2. And it's said that he was in prison for having too much money or something like that, something that has to do with currency, bringing currency into a foreign country. So my thing, if you take a man that's, 82, 85, 90, 95 years old, in those ranges, and put him in a prison, that is basically a sentence of murder. If it's true that Dr. Sebi was in a prison, that makes no sense to me. Because he could have been detained in a lot of various ways other than prison at that age. And I don't see where he would be at risk of fleeing the country or anything like that. Plus, if you've already confiscated the money, what the hell do you care if he flees the country? If you catch a man, he's got a lot of money, you take the money, you confiscate the money, and you can put him on house arrest. If he flees the country, keep the money and spend the money into the country and let him go, and now he can't come back. Case closed. I mean, the whole idea is to keep him out of society, so if he leaves the country and don't come back, he's out of your society. So, to me, just arresting a man that age and putting him in prison is murder. There's so many problems with this story. One of the main problems being that someone as popular to vegans and holistic people and people in the conscious community, someone that popular like Dr. Sebi, for it not to be a lot of videos and a lot of media and a lot of stories about him even being in prison is laxed. Somebody dropped the ball. I mean, we got media. This media is supposed to make sure that we know what's going on. So everyone that's out there doing their media work needs to get on top of their game and needs to know these type of things and let us know. We should have known Dr. Sebi was even in a prison. I had no idea Dr. Sebi was even in a prison. And, I see a lot of black conscious people and vegans and holistic health people on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and I seen no mention of him being arrested. I seen nobody making a big deal of him being arrested. So that's foul right there in itself. Now, I'm not big on conspiracies, but conspiracies are real. And a lot of times I feel like the biggest conspiracy is to make up a lot of conspiracies so that some of the real conspiracies are overlooked. And by me being born in the late 50s and living through the 60s, I have seen where popular black people have wound up dead for various reasons, but within a 10-year span, a lot of very important people ended up dead. So this is kind of suspicious because a lot of very popular black people and very influential black people are dying. And I'm not talking about, musicians either, although they do have a big part of it. But some of these musicians that we're respecting are not really pro-black. So, you have to wonder about that. But you can say maybe their music has been stolen, But there's other people that are catching all kind of strange court cases, and people are dying. It's very peculiar. And I've seen it all happen before. What they used to do in the 70s is they used to shoot them up with heroin and say they OD'd. So when you do look into the situation of like a Prince or a Michael Jackson, did they OD or were they murdered? That's what you have to look into. So a lot of influential people have been killed before like this, like Jimi Hendrix. He was full of a lot of drugs, and they picked him up in the ambulance, and instead of laying him over on his stomach where he could throw up, they put him in the ambulance and pulled his head back so that he would strangle on his vomit. By the time he got to the hospital, all his music and all his guitars was stolen. And all of a sudden, Jimi Hendrix albums just kept coming out. Just like I'm sure Michael Jackson and Prince albums will come out, where people that went in there and stole all of their information and all their music. I worry about a lot of these revolutionaries, that's out here hollering and shouting, this Black Power dialogue, because I've seen what happened to Fred Hampton and some of the others. And, when they kill these people, nobody's going to do anything. These people are going to be dead. They're going to be valuable people in the community that are dead, and we won't be able to replace them for another 30, 40 years, and that'll be that. So rest in power and rest in peace to the brother Dr. Sebi. It's some very shady business going on with that. And you can look back at the death of Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and you can look at how he was shot and how he all of a sudden got sick and died. And right there, you can see some funny business going on. You can even look at the death of Steve Coakley. That was a very strange and peculiar death also. And we can go on and on how people are mysteriously dying. Very valuable people. So keep your eyes open. As far as I am concerned, Dr. Sebi was murdered, okay? He was put in a situation where the chances of him surviving were slim. And to me, that's murder.